On episode 732 of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we discuss training as we age with legend in the field, Dan John. Welcome to the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, the largest and longest running health and fitness podcast dedicated to people over 40. Whether you're looking to lose weight, get stronger, or improve your health and age better, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Coach Allan, an online health and fitness coach and author of The Wellness Roadmap. Each week, we dive into practical tips, expert advice, and inspiring stories to help you take control of your health and fitness. If you're ready to look, feel, and perform your best, no matter your age, this podcast is the perfect place to start. Let's get you on the path to a healthier, fitter, and more energetic version of yourself. I hope you'll join us each week, and together we can unlock your full potential. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Allan. Really glad that you're here. You know, I was going to do a solo episode for this episode. In fact, the day this goes live, February 3rd, I just turned 60 yesterday. And I was going to do a solo episode and kind of talk about that. But some things I've just seen in the last couple of weeks have kind of, I want to say they brought me down. I feel kind of bad about some things that I'm seeing. And one of them is a data point. And when I first saw it, I just couldn't believe it. But I went and looked it up, and sure enough, it is what it is. The data point I'm talking about was strength training, resistance training. And we all know we should be doing resistance training every week. The guidelines say we should be doing it 2 times per week, which again, those guidelines are based on bare minimums. I mean, like bare minimums for staying healthy. And to find out that only 22% of us are actually doing this was actually kind of mind blowing. 22%. What does that mean? That means almost 80% of people are not doing any resistance training at all, or doing less than the bare minimum. And that probably relates to being none. So, again, I was going to do a solo episode. I felt kind of a little downcast coming into this. I'm glad that I was able to have this conversation with Dan John, because I know it's going to lift my spirits. I know it's going to lift yours. And if you don't walk away from this particular interview with any one thing, hear this. If you're not strength training, you want to be frail. You want to be weak. You want to be dependent. You want to lose the things you care most about. You have to get into doing strength training, whether you like it or not. That's one of the pieces of advice that I think is actually probably one of the worst pieces of advice that's out there, is find something you enjoy and just do that. No, you need to be strength training. And the minimum of 2 times a week is the minimum. You should probably be doing more. And more isn't necessarily Olympian level. We're going to talk about that too. But basically, you need to be making sure that you're taking care of your body, so your body will be there to take care of you. But let's go ahead and get into the interview. Our guest today has spent his life with one foot in the world of lifting and throwing and the other foot in academia. An All-American discus thrower, he has also competed at the highest levels of Olympic lifting, Highland Games, and the weight pentathlon, an event for which he holds the American record. He spends his work life blending weekly workshops and lectures with full-time writing, and is also an online religious studies instructor for Columbia College of Missouri. His previous books include Never Let Go, Mass Made Simple, and Easy Strength. With no further ado, here's Dan John. Dan, welcome to 40 Plus Fitness.
Well, it's great. I feel like I'm a little old for this group, but I'm happy to be here. So thank you.
Plus, both of us are in that plus territory, and getting more plus every day. But I'm honored to have you on this show. I've wanted to talk to you for a long, long time. I've read so much of your stuff. I've watched so much of your stuff. I kind of feel like you were like a part of my journey as I was trying to figure myself out. I could listen to you as that voice of reason that was
Thank you.
always there that was like, okay, you can be older and stronger, and actually
Yeah.
should be stronger, and you can do these things, but you got to do them right, and you got to think about, form, and you got to think about repetitions, and you got to think about wear and tear, and your body is going to slow down, but that doesn't mean you lose capacity if you fight to keep it. And you've always been that voice. Like, I just remember early on, because I was looking for help and I was like, okay, there's just no one, at the time, there really just wasn't anybody talking about this. There was chair yoga and stretching. That was the books. There were no podcasts, but you would come on a podcast and be 20 years older than the people interviewing you. But you had that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, don't stop, keep going, but realize that if you're doing damage now, there's a price to pay later. You're just always kind of that guy. And I was like, really appreciate what you brought to the industry from that perspective, because I think so many people think it's like, okay, yeah, you're either a professional athlete or you're an old man.
Sure, yeah. It's funny. Yeah. Either you're an NFL player or chair yoga. I think that's funny, because it certainly seems to come off that way, doesn't it? Now we've got these fitness influencers who are, obviously they're on drugs. They also do a lot of makeup. They also do, I've seen it happen, 200, 300, 400 photos to get one. Hell, I'm lucky if I can stand still for one photo, much less, I got things to do with my life. But thank you, Allan. That meant a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the things that because we sent over and talked back and forth a little bit about what we wanted to kind of cover on this show. And one of the reasons that I'm kind of really happy to have you here, it's like a birthday present to me, is that the day this show goes live is the day after my 60th birthday.
There you go.
And it's one of the things that I will say all the time. I don't say it this way, so I want to hear it from your words, but you say everyday strength.
Yeah.
Okay, what exactly does that mean for you, and how does someone acquire that?
So, I've always used Nick Raines. So up to age 16 or 17, you should do as many things as you can in life and really learn as many sports, games. I mean, you should do yoga and Olympic lifting. You should power lift, bodybuild, and swim. Just learn everything. Maybe at 17, you figure out you're good at something, and maybe you turn that into your sport, your hobby, your game. Okay. Maybe you're lucky. Like, I wouldn't say lucky, but if you work like myself, I was a Division I discus thrower. Yay for me. Well, when you get to about 35, from about 17 to 35, and really about 17 to 22, 23, if you're not making money at 22, 23, you ain't going to make money in your sport. But from about 23 to 35, the best advice I can give you is to get stuff behind you. Okay. You should have your driver's license. You should have your high school diploma. You should have your whatever. If you decide to go to college, you should have finished your bachelor's. If you're going to get a master's, get it behind you. I guess 17 to about 25, check as many boxes as you can. Get them behind you. And then the big thing from about 25 to 35 after that, don't get fat, don't get dead. I mean, really, if you can fight off, just don't do pizza and beer for dinner every night. Be a big kid. Once you hit, I think about 36 to 55, to me, that's the biggest investment you're going to make with your body. Okay. Now, the best thing you do in financial is when you turn 18, take $10,000 and put it into your retirement account and forget you ever had it. And, when you're 65, you'll be very, very happy. If you have no debt, yeah, good for you. But from 36 to 55, I talk about this concept called everyday strength. And the idea is this, and really, there's nothing new. I didn't do this on purpose, but this is my copy of Theodore Heidegger's Physiology of Strength from the late 1950s, translated into English in 61. And he talks about this in great depth about once you hit a certain level of strength, you can take 6 months off. And the first time you take 6 months off, it might take you 2 months to get back to that strength level. Take 6 months off, it might take 2 weeks to get back to that strength level. Take 6 months off, it might take 2 or 3 workouts to get back to that level. That's the key for me, Allan, is that number there. The third workout after you took 6 months off, what were your numbers then? I'm not talking about peaking for the nationals. I'm not talking about a last chance attempt at the Olympic Games to win the gold medal. I'm talking about that strength that you can rely on that has a bit of stickiness to it. In high school, you might have done 110 push-ups for the presidential test, but how many days would it take you to get back to, say, 15 push-ups? To me, that number is probably more important than a 145-pound sophomore doing 110 push-ups. Being able to do 5 pull-ups without having to do a focused pull-up program where you're going to blow your elbows apart trying to get this goal. So everyday strength, there's 2 factors there. The first is that you can walk away from it and it remains, is the biggest part of this. And the other side of it is that you had built it up so that it's there. And I think both of them are important. So from 36 to 55, I had a person summarize my workshop one time this way. They said you should Olympic lift to your 35. You then should power lift into your 55. And then you should bodybuild. And I thought, yeah, that's actually kind of wish I'd have said that, because that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So what you want to do, and of course you're sliding into another one. We'll talk about that in just a second. But you want to make sure you're strong in a whole bunch of areas in your life. And everyday strength means whatever those numbers are that you can do. And one of the nice things about back in the day when there were fixed barbells and people did everything from the floor is that you bought that 110-pound barbell set, 50 kilos, or the 310-pound Olympic set, and you learned certain numbers where you could always kind of read okay, my best clean and press is 200 pounds, but boy, I feel good at 115. That 115 number, basically 50 kilos, might be more important than that 90 kilos that you had to train, 200 pounds, that you had to train 2 years to get to. It's that number that sits with you. And of course, then after 56, I think it's really 2 things I focus on, and a third, but lean body mass, which is less fat, more muscle tissue. Mobility, which I describe as the free movement of every joint. And the third thing is you've got to get a walking protocol built in your late 50s and 60s. So that walking is just a normal. I lift weights and I go for a walk. Today I went for an hour walk. That's a little bit more than I usually do, about a half an hour. After this call, I'm going to walk her to my daughter's house and watch her granddaughter for a little bit. She lives 5,000 steps away, which is yeah. And it's just kind of funny to say something like that but you got to build in walking. Now, you live in a place, I probably would guess there's more walking. I actually live in a place where I have to be careful. If I go this way out of my house, I have to be careful because there's an extremely busy street. And if I go that way, there's a freeway, and I'm not going to walk across a freeway.
Yeah.
But try to find places you can walk to. So real quick, after 35 to 55, you want to get yourself as strong as you can and in many movements as you can that you can rely on staying with. It's not peaking. It's not competition. It's not performance. These are numbers I'm good with. After 55, 56, it's hypertrophy work, bodybuilding work, joint mobility, and walking. One last thing about joint mobility. My good friend John Price, his college coach used to always say, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So when you go through, and it's funny, whenever I talk about mobility, I start moving my thumbs and my fingers around and my wrists around. Whatever joints you have that are immobile, that's where you got to get focused on. Now, it might take, in some cases, surgery, other cases, a physio or physical therapist. It might take a good massage, or it might take you buying into mobility work. But if you can keep your lean body mass at a good place as long as you can, you stay mobile in both definitions of the term, joint mobility and walking, you can have a pretty, I'm smelling 70. A year from today, as an athlete, I'll be 70 years old. And by the way, the Olympic lifting records in the United States are going down hard again. As soon as I can get into a contest, because basically I took care of my everyday strength when I was supposed to. And now I train more like a bodybuilder, but I focus on mobility every single workout. So that was, I hope I didn't ramble too much, but that's how I see things.
No. And I think what you kind of laid out right there makes a lot of sense because, when we're younger, we're going to probably do more things that we need that power
Yeah.
to do. When we start getting older, okay, we're doing a lot less of that power stuff and a lot more of just walking around carrying the grandchild,
Yeah.
kind of stuff. We still need a little bit of that because 3-year-olds will dart out in the road in a second if you're
Yeah.
not watching them close enough, and you've got to be able to leap,
Yeah.
land, grab them, get them out of harm's way without
Exactly.
hurting yourself.
In fact, if you don't mind me following up, I was born with a condition called pistol grip hips, so I've had both hips replaced. My niece Danielle, at 18 months, had her first hip surgery. My daughter's on her way to a total. It's a genetic thing, and after I was done, I sat down with a physical therapist, and he said, "Well, what do you think about my industry?" And I said, "You guys are really good at the red light and the green light. You're very good at, you need a walker, you need a cane, you need a little on the shower wall, a little bar, and you guys are real good. Yeah, go back to work. It's that caution, that middle part, they're not very good at." So I came up with this way to explain it I call it Thanksgiving groceries. So in your car, you have 15 bags of groceries and they all weigh 20 pounds. Okay. 15 times 20 is 300 pounds. Now for me, and there's 10 stairs. There's a flight of 10 stairs you have to walk up. Man, I'm grabbing all 15 of them, and I'm going to walk up that damn thing with 300 pounds. Someone else is listening and going, "That's the stupidest thing I ever heard of. I'm going to pick up each bag, carry it in." Yeah, okay, that's great, but that's 150 stairs. For me, the reason I come up with this is that, to me, what we want after 35 is I want the option of being able to carry them all at once, carry them one at a time, or carry them 2 or 4 bags at a time. I want the whole matrix of options. And for me, that is the best way I can kind of explain what we want from 35 to 55. You want options. So if you have to sprint and save your child's life, the option's still there. I had a pretty good sized fall. In fact, the granddaughter I'm about to go take care of, she picked up she had a bad flu at daycare, and she gave it to me, and I got sick at night, stood up too quickly, passed out, and landed on my face. Ooh. Okay, that's bad. And you can, gentle listener, Allan can see my face. Allan will tell you, this face doesn't need any more damage. It's had plenty. Thank you, Mary. But one of the things the fall reminded me of is I got to make sure I keep my options open because, and I just went to a workshop over at the senior center and they made a really good point, is I need to start planning independence as much as I plan whether I want to keep my guns, my Armacondas at this size. I also have to start planning independence. So I have to start thinking about new rails. I have in the shower. I might have to start thinking about another set of banisters. I might have to think about, the mats I put in have to be sticky mats, not slidey mats. And so for me, that little example of the Thanksgiving dinner is a good little matrix to run your head through of what qualities am I focusing on, what qualities are my gaps. And once it goes back to the mobility thing I was saying, if you have a stuck joint, that's your gap. You got to feel it. If your only option is to carry each bag up a flight of 10 stairs, that means you have to do 150 stairs. The 150 stairs might be an impediment. So you got to make sure you think these, and I mean this. If you're going to be looking at, you're only turning 60, so let's just do, 60. You may have 35 years easily now, right? Well, but there are going to be changes 35 years from now. So why don't we start looking at that strength, mobility, look at it now and start making a nice little 35-year ramp up plan so that you're still a terror on the beach 35 years from now.
Yeah. That was, you're basically telling my grandfather's story. Okay.
Oh,
So when he turned 80, he had to quit playing golf.
yeah,
And he loved golf more than people. So
yeah,
he had to give up the love of his life. And I could just tell when I was talking to him, you could, the hurt, the pain. It was like a friend had, more than a friend, a lover, or, a lover of your
mhm,
life had died. He was losing golf. But then you flash forward to 90 and he's in an assisted care home. So it's one story, one, bedroom, living room,
mhm.
bathroom. But if he was sitting down and he realized he had to go to the bathroom, he wasn't going to make it. And so he
So,
would have to call someone to come clean him up. And because of this situation, he didn't want that to be happening when people were there. So he stopped having people over.
uh,
And so I didn't get to see him the last 5 years of his life.
mhm,
And I'm, again, that's part of what I think about is like, okay, well, that's not how I want to live the last 15 years of my life. And it's not how I want to live the last 5 years of my life for sure. I just had a brand new grandbaby this year. And if they don't get married, if he doesn't get married till he's in his 30s, I'm going to be in my 90s.
yeah,
But
true.
I want to be there. I want to. I
Yeah, me
want to
too. Yeah,
actually be at his wedding, be able to walk in, be independent, be able to enjoy the event, and watch him do the things that he's going to do in his life.
yeah,
So be it sports, be it getting married, be it having his first child, my first great grandchild.
yeah.
I want to be there.
So, I look at all these books and I get all this advice all the time, and people say, well, there's like things like hormone replacement and TRT and all that stuff. And my first thought is, that's not been around very long. These drugs and these injections. And my thought is, do I really want to be the guinea pig? Because most of my friends who did anabolics, they're not with me anymore. And so one of the things I'd recommend to anybody listening is that start now thinking about what, if you're 50, think about what 80 is going to look like. If you're 60, think about what 90 is going to look at. Because, if you decide to go at age 60 on a big bulk, you decide to, you want to layer on 40 pounds of new body weight. It's a great idea, Allan, except the longevity research doesn't support your decision to put on 40 pounds at 60. If you decide to, ride a motorcycle in the desert without a helmet, the research doesn't support your survival if you fall on a rock. So you have to do, and it doesn't mean you have to be a scaredy cat. You don't have to avoid people. You just have to start. You truly, and this is true for any age of life. You have to look before you leap. You can't be saying, "Hold my beer and watch this." You can do it a few times.
Yeah.
But you're going to pay a high price, and I'm only a few years older than you, but this is one of the things that's helped me a lot. I am lighter than I was when I reported as a freshman in college to the track team, and I'm very proud of that. And because I'd obviously just hit puberty, so I was cheating a little bit, but if I want to be around, I can't be weighing, when I was a Highland gamer, I weighed as heavy as 273. You don't see a lot of 273 pound men at the old folks home, do you? I mean,
No.
No. Now we do have
They also,
medicines.
most of them don't lift. So,
That's true.
that.
True. But, I walk around, I walk around here in Salt Lake or even on my airports, and I realize that a lot of men are choosing short-term carbohydrates or whatever it is for long-term happiness. And also, too, this is something, Allan, I don't want to go too far out of my field, but there is such a correlation between a potbelly and long-term depression. And I do find it interesting because some of my friends who've especially radicalized in any direction, very often, I think it's their potbelly talking as much as it's their brain. And you just got to work. You just got to work real hard. You don't have to work hard. It's not hard. None of the things I'm telling you is hard, but you have to do it. You have to do it. I don't think I lift weights 3 days a week. I walk at least 10,000 steps every day. That's just the thing. I take my mobility seriously. Between every set of exercises, I do a mobility movement. that complements it. And I keep a very good eye on my protein intake and my calories. And that's all I do. I sleep as a priority. A good example is tonight. While we're talking, gentle listeners, it's Friday. I retired from Friday nights about 30 years ago. Now, if there's a high school football game, or if someone says, there's a ballet, okay, that's fine. But most of the time I retired from Friday night because I like to get up early in the morning on Saturday and get poopy done, Yeah. So is it a sacrifice not to get drunk every Friday night at a bar and spend $200, $300, $400? Oh, I miss it so much, said no one ever. So, yeah. So none of what I'm telling anybody is I don't think it's crazy. I don't think I'm a lunatic or a fringer at all. I think I'm just doing the logical, appropriate things because I want to dance at my granddaughter's weddings also. Yeah.
Yeah. And really it is, like you said, it's not big things. It's little things.
No.
But it's little things done consistently for the next 10, 15, 35 years. And once you start doing something like this, so I'm eating whole food.
Yeah.
Radical concept, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I prioritize protein, veggies, and fruit. I mean, what a lunatic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I try to sleep 8 or 9 hours every night. I get pushback on that, Alan. I literally will say that on a podcast, and the comment will be, "Who has time to sleep 9 hours?" What are you doing in your life? I've written 27 books. I'm on podcasts. At one time, I was an administrator full-time and a full-time professor, also cooking every meal for my kids and an elite athlete. Okay. And then people say, who has time to sleep 9 hours? What are you doing that one-ups me on sleep? Oh, and then the next thing is, like one friend one time said that he also watched the follow-up to Friends, that TV show called Joey. Who in their right mind could hold their meals down watching that show, Joey? But he had watched every episode, but didn't have time to sleep.
Well, that's the trade-off. That's the point, is that there's things they choose to do that are not the choice that would be the choice they would make if they had a chance to make it again when they were 80.
Oh, I tell you. So every Thursday night at the Murray Senior Center, we have a dance, and Summer Hayes plays the music. He does a wonderful job. He's a hell of a guy. Maureen runs it, and I hang around a bunch of people. My best friend there, his name's Merrill. Now, Merrill was an eyewitness to the first atomic bomb blast, and he flew 88 fighter missions over North Vietnam. He's in his mid-90s now, and sometimes he'll tell me things. He exercises probably 6 or 7 days a week. Does a lot of swimming and weightlifting. When he tells me something, man, I lean in and listen, because that's a gold mine. My coach, Dick Nottmeyer, just died a few weeks ago, and he was in his mid-90s. And literally the last time I talked to him on the phone, he told me how important it was to eat protein and lift weights and make sure I go for my walks. Listen, I just threw forget Bitcoin. I just threw gold at all your people.
Yeah.
And I threw diamonds, bags of diamonds, and yet no one will pick them up because it's all the way down on the floor, Yeah.
Well, we need to get down on the floor and get back up. And
get back up, baby. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about your walking regimen, because
sure.
You're one of the few people in this space that, is really high on walking.
Well, I think anybody,
because you're right. I live in a place where I can walk all the time.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I have this stamina level because I walk. And so, like, we had a friend, he passed. And so we were doing a celebration of life this weekend. Yeah. And it was at a beach that he liked. And I'm looking at the map and saying, okay, that's right at about 4.5 miles. So that's going to be right at 10,000 steps.
Yeah.
I told my wife, I'm like, okay, that's going to take me about an hour and a half. So I'm just going to leave, instead of 2, I'm going to leave at 12:30. Instead of waiting for you to leave at 1:30 and ride with you. And I got there right at 2:00. I was able to listen to a pretty good audio book.
Yeah.
And I got some sun, and I got the steps in. But tell me a little bit about your walking regimen.
Sure, sure. First off, when people push back at me in the walking, and it happens online all the time, I am shocked at how many great athletes who never actually competed are online. And the best bodies in the history of the world hide behind anonymous names online. Sorry, that was cruel, but it's true. First off, so at my body weight, I weigh between 198 and 204, depending on, I don't even know what that is, okay? But if you look up, at my height, so for me, at my height, 10,000 steps, it comes to about 5 miles, okay? So if I walk 5 miles a day at my body composition, I burn, according to one chart, just 500 calories. Another one gets me at 850. Now listen, 500 to 850 calories isn't very much. But here's the thing why walking is superior to any kind of higher intensity stuff for body composition. Okay, the other thing too is at my body height, if I'm jogging, there's 2,600 pounds of foot pressure every time a leg hits the ground. I'm not sure there's nothing but asphalt and concrete out there until I get to the park. I know that's good. But if I walk 10,000 steps and come in the house, there's no impact on my hunger levels. If I was to run 5 miles, as soon as I showered off, I would be ravenous. It's like back before I really figured all this out, I used to believe that you could burn fat. Now I'm convinced you nudge fat off. You just gently say, "Hey, do you mind leaving?" "Oh, sure. We'll just, technically you breathe out fat. Yeah. It's carbon. But don't worry about it for right now. Because whenever I say you breathe out fat, that gives credence to the yoga instructor. Just breathe fat. It's true, but it's not true. So if I walk 10,000 steps a day, I'm knocking out 500, which I think is right, to as high as 850 calories. But Allan, the flip side is this. I'm not ravenous. I'm not hungry. I'm not, there's a great raptors, when they're looking around for food, it's called yerrick. I don't have yerrick when I walk. Now, if I do something high intensity, Tabata front squats or some kind of really hard circuit or even complexes, we'll go to the restaurant, and I'm just, they'll put the piece of bread, the bread bowl out, and I'll have eaten 3 loaves before I order my food. If I walk 10,000 steps, I say no thank you for the bread, and I do the most important exercise we do, the push away. I do the 2-hand push away. That's why walking is so important. Yes, the 10,000 steps burns calorie. Yes, the 10,000 steps are probably the best thing you can do for your back, according to Stu McGill. Walking is money for your back. Yes, it probably does a whole bunch. If you sway your arms as you walk, it does a good job. It keeps that brain, that opposite left side, right side thing going. It's called cross crawling. Yes. But it also has no hit on your appetite. So you can get that 500 calorie burn. I tell you one thing, could you imagine burning 500 calories on an exercise machine? You ever done that thing you turn on calorie and you're on it for 20 minutes and it says you burned 7 calories? I don't know if I could handle that, man, emotionally, So, it just makes me want to cry saying it out loud, So that's why walking is better. So let's go through it. Walking is better because you're not polluting the air. Walking is better because you're not pounding your joints. Walking is better because it's great for your spinal mobility. Walking is greater because of the crossing of the left-right hemispheres of your body. Good. That's all true. You can listen to great books as you walk. It's wonderful. You can have a conversation. You can walk your dog, whatever. You can say hi to your neighbors. But the biggest one is it doesn't have an impact on hunger. So you're getting a caloric burn without the rebound of, I need food. And quick. There you go.
And if you break it down, okay, this is old. This is old school, but I think a lot of the old school stuff worked, and that's why they did it. You would have a bodybuilder who was basically trying to start cutting fat.
Yeah,
and they wouldn't go out for a run. They would usually get on the stationary bike and they would ride really, really slow
for a long time,
for a while. And you'd be like, okay, what are you doing? They're like, well, I'm doing my cut. And this is how you do it. You just get on the bike and you just pedal, not too fast, not too slow, but just a comfortable pace. You're just going, you can have a conversation with people. It's all cool. And that's what they would do. So instead of, well, they were also spending the 2 hours lifting, but, these guys were pro or about to go pro. And, they're like, this is just how you do it. And,
I was down at the original Muscle Beach in 1977, 76 maybe. I think it was right after the Nationals. And this is when I was doing power cleans at the Real Gold's gym. And later that day I went to the World Gym. And I was walking on the beach because, it's worth walking on. Trust me, that beach is worth walking on if you're a young man who likes attractive women. I'm just saying that, throwing it out there. And Robbie Robinson sees me, comes over and goes, "You're the boy doing power cleans." And I go, "Yeah, young man." He said, "You're the young man doing power cleans." I go, "Yeah." So he gave me some advice, and we walked for a long ways together. And he told me, there was a set of stairs. He goes, "If you really want to get your fat off, hit that flight of stairs, but it's the walking." But he also told me this great workout where day 1, you bench press and do pull-ups. Day 2, you front squat and do straight leg deadlifts, and repeat until you get to become Mr. Universe. I thought, okay, I can follow all that science. That was so, do very basic exercises, occasionally run up some flights of stairs. It's power law. Yeah. Sometimes you train hard, but the rest of the time you walk on the beach, checking out the girls' advanced.
You do see more. So like when I went on that walk to the wake, I saw a sloth, took pictures. You won't see that if you're running or biking or in a car. So
or doing indoor rowing. You're not going to see a lot of sloths.
No, I didn't see any sloths when I was doing the indoor rowing. I could pull a calorie, but I had that advantage because I was bigger than most of the other guys doing CrossFit. I'd sit there and, just do a massive pull and watch calorie count off. It's like, only, we got to do 500 of those. I only have to do 500 pulls. I don't know how many thousands they're going to do, but I'm only doing 500. Now, Dan, I define wellness as being the healthiest, fittest, and happiest you can be. What are 3 strategies or tactics to get and stay well?
Well, that's actually, I like that. Tim Anderson says, you move good to feel good, to look good. And I think you're both on the same path. Well, I always start with sleep, Allan. Whenever people ask me questions about recovery, the first thing I do is slide over to sleep. What's your sleep hygiene like? How dark is your room? How cool is your room? What do you do in the hours before? If you have to take supplements to fall asleep, think that through a little bit. So for me, I always start with sleep. The next area would be how we address food. Now, I am I like fasting. Of course, with my other career in religious studies, you bump into a lot of, there's a great phrase. It's attributed to the early saints, but it's also attributed to the Stoics. First the fast, then the feast. And I've always found, so for me, I'm a big fan of fasting. But when you come out of the fast, I come out of my fast by lifting weights, and I'm at 9,000 steps, and I haven't. So I was at 9,000 steps this morning when I had my first meal, and it was pretty protein heavy. But I lifted weights, 9,000 steps, my first meal. So it's funny because I just combined the last 2 points into one. But so it's sleep. It's sleep followed by some intelligent approach to your caloric load. At my size, in fact, it's recommended that every American male eat 2,500 calories. My nutritionist told me I should eat 2,500 calories, which makes me lean in, because if you see me in a picture, I'm usually the biggest person by far in pictures. And yet, when I'm at, the airport, I'm not, at least, some places. So, I think caloric load is the next. You got to get your protein correct, and then your caloric load correctly done. And then the third one is movement, and of course we've already discussed it in some points. I think you need to deal with your strength, your lean body mass, and your mobility in some kind of organized training setting, and then walking. But the big one, and this comes from the senior center, there's two things Maureen reminds us: community and mobility. You've got to be in community. My workout group is an intentional community. We all gather and share. And tomorrow I'm in a financial intentional community on Wednesdays. I'm in another community on Thursday nights. I'm in my dance community. I'm on the board of directors of Utah Presents and Hot House West. I go to a lot of music. I have no music skills at all, but I support the arts here in Salt Lake very, very hard. But I hope you're hearing this, Allan. Community, 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 community. Yeah. I'm around people a lot. And the other one is mobility. Maureen's concept isn't, this, but get up and go, move, go to the dance, go for a walk. And for me, and it's weird, it's to just come to the end of it. There's something, and it's a phrase I use a lot. I call it Old MacDonald's farm, E-I-E-I-O. Excellence is obvious, E-I-O. Excellence is obvious. And my point for most people is embrace the obvious. If I'm in a well-tailored suit, no one can see my guns, my armacondas, but people know when I'm in a suit that I'm healthy. Why do they know I'm healthy? What is it about that? The last time I saw my doctor, who I taught in high school, by the way, which I think is funny, he saw me in the parking lot and he gave me a big hug and thanked me for being such a good patient, because I do those little things like floss my teeth and get checkups and, do all the stuff. So for me, wellness is doing those little basics, but embracing the obvious of the basics. Sleep, your vaccines, your medical care, floss your teeth, go to the dentist, wear your seatbelt, look both ways before you cross the street. There's nothing magic, anything I said. But if you embrace the obvious, then people will see when you're in a suit or in your swim trunks that you're healthy exterior, but they can also see your healthy interior. And I'm very, when I was a competing athlete, I used to be inflamed all the time in my face because I was always trying to shovel food down. And the nicest thing about where I'm at now is my body's inflammation levels are so low. And I'm very happy about that. What did I do? Well, I just embraced the obvious about long-term health. So wellness is obvious. How you get to wellness, to me, is obvious. Your job is to embrace the obvious.
Thank you for that. Dan, if someone wanted to learn more about you and all the wonderful things that you're doing, where would you like for me to send them?
Sure. Well, they come to my house, for God's sakes. Come on, drop by. So I do have, I don't like the name of it, but that's what the name is. I do have a site called danjohnuniversity.com. And if they want a discount, your people want a discount to join the site, type in ESPN, E-S-P-E-N. It's ESPN, but with an extra E, ESPEN. And then I have a podcast. I think it's called Dan John Strength Coach. It's over on YouTube. And then on Instagram, I'm Coach Dan John, which, by the way, I think all those names are silly, but the name, Dan John is pretty, it's pretty common, so it's hard to get domain names for it,
It is, but
yeah.
Everyone that is in this field knows who Dan John is. So
yeah.
you're easy to find.
That means a lot. Yeah.
There's a lot there. You put a lot out. You've written some awesome books. There's a lot out there. So well worth giving that a look over. But
I appreciate that.
Yeah, Dan, thank you so much for being a part of 40 Plus.
Very much. Yeah. And I will help send this out as best I can too when it comes out.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's show, take a moment to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you would, please leave us a rating and review on your podcast player of choice. Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, we meet Ken Stern and discuss his book, Healthy to 100, How Strong Social Ties Lead to Long Lives. Until then, Have a happy and healthy week.